Paying Attention, Finding God in the Ordinary. It's a book that recognizes godly movements and spiritual truths in our ordinary day-to-day lives.
Can't wait to hear about it. With us now, author Raleigh Johnson. He's going to tell us how his outdoor adventures inspired him to write this book. Great title. Great to have you here, man.
Yeah, Chris and Christy, just fabulous to be here with you. See the behind the scenes. You guys do a great job. Yeah, this is my first and newest book, Paying Attention. And it's about 200, for about 7 or 8 years, I write a Tuesday email devotion that goes out to a couple thousand people from church, etc. And people would always say, these are fantastic, they help me in my faith. Why don't you get those published? So it's about 200 individual little vignette stories. Much of it takes place in the outdoors because I'm an outdoor fanatic, backpacking, rock climbing, canoeing, bow hunting, etc. And then just hundreds of personal encounters of finding God in just ordinary spaces and events that take place. You know, so many of us are looking for the miraculous, to God to move in big, miraculous ways. And I just think if you can see Him hidden in nature, if you can see Him hidden in creation, or an encounter with a stranger or a friend, you'll just draw that much closer.
So what are people going to gain when they read some of these stories? Are they going to feel that kind of touching, like, oh, I can relate to that?
I think so, Christy. I think the neat thing about this book, each of these stories, it doesn't start with scripture or doesn't say you got to do these 10 steps for faith, etc. It starts with real life stories, and then at the end I'll use some scripture to tie it in. And so I think people will find themselves, or they'll say, get some aha moments where they say, yeah, I can see that. And I had a similar experience like that I can see God, and I think that will draw me closer in my faith life.
Talk about when you get confirmation, like, because I feel like I go through my life and I'm like, okay, He's talking to me with that kind of message. And some people I don't think necessarily buy into that. So how do you know, hey, that's confirming to me that God's given me a message?
Well, I'm a big believer in taking quiet time daily, just to be alone, whether it's on the deck or in the shower or on the car ride. And listening, and as you pray, you listen as well. And as I pray, I think God reveals neat little things that take place, and I say, aha, that's a confirmation of my belief. And I think the neat thing about this book is I wouldn't call it a religious or a churchy type book, because it's just about everyday experiences. And then people, I think, will see and find God in there, and they will then be able to see that for themselves and grow in their faith life.
And a lot of this, too, comes from, you've traveled kind of around the world doing different mission trips and such, so a lot of it comes from those stories.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm at First Lutheran Church downtown. I've been there 23 years, and a big part of my ministry has been outdoor experiences, big extended backpack trips to Montana and Wyoming, canoe trips to northern Ontario and the Boundary Waters, rock climbing at Devil's Tower or the North Shore. And yeah, right there's a picture. Those are the canoes we actually built in 2014. Took us about 5 months to build them. Wow. And we had about 100 people work on them, ages 6 to 85. And took us 5 months to build them. And then we took them on a trip to central Montana, went down to Missouri. Last year we had 2 of the boats up in the Boundary Waters in Quetico. And so there again, I like to take kids and adults. A lot of these are intergenerational trips. We had 30 of us, 3 of our canoes went there, and get them immersed in creation. We as a generation are completely losing touch with creation and nature, because kids now would rather play a video game. We communicate via thumbs instead of face-to-face like this. And so technology, as good as it is, and I've got iPods and phones and all that good stuff like you were just showing, but I believe one of the big ways God reveals Himself is through creation. And that can be on the golf course. For Fargo folks, that can be at the lake. That can be in your garden. That can be for a walk in the park. Because creation is one of the great places where God speaks to people.
How did you pick which stories to put in there? Because I'm sure you get stories from multiple different people from all different parts. How did you pick which ones to put in a book?
Well, as I say, I write one every week. For every Tuesday it goes out, and I always get good feedback. People say, give us more. And so I just write about what I see. I throughout the week, if I have some kind of encounter that clicks or makes sense, I sometimes don't even know what I'm going to say. I just invite God into the writing, and I start writing. And pretty soon we get to a poignant message or a point from that encounter or experience being outdoors, And there it is. And so I probably had 250, and I weeded out the ones that didn't ring my bell. And so there's about 200 in here. I've got another 100 that are getting ready for book number 2 that will hopefully happen soon.
Wow.
Wow.
So we're just trying to get the word out. And we've been getting lots of neat feedback from people. You know, for a lot of folks, there's our marathon right there with Push and Roar. That was the 2010 marathon. And we did that's 2008, just coming close to the Fargo Dome. We pushed him in kind of an adapted wheelchair. 2010, we had this super deluxe. We called it the Chariot of Fire that we pushed Rory in. And Rory had a stroke in 2006. He was training to go to Devil's Tower with his daughter and a group of about 30 from First Lutheran. And he had this stroke in May, so he couldn't come with. And about a year later, I said, Rory, how would you like to get back in the game? And how about if I pushed you in the half marathon? And Rory cannot speak anymore. And so he communicates this. He'll, if I say, Rory, do you want to be in the marathon? He'll go, and he'll raise his eyes up like this, and now he can shake his head. And Noah is like this, her eyes closed. So I went to his house, and I said, Rory, how about if we get in the marathon? And immediately it was a,
yes, please.
Yes. And he's a great friend, and now we hunt together. For the last 6 years, we've been hunting together. We've got an adapted crossbow, and he's taken 3 deer, and it's a unique process. And he's just my #1 role model of courage, perseverance, and toughness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any particular story, either in the book or maybe not in the book, that stands out to you that really confirmed?
Well, there's several of stories of Rory in there because he's such an inspiration, and people will get to read about our marathon. They'll get to read about our hunts. And no, I was on a radio station earlier last week, and I love them all. And each one brings back a great memory. And some are in nature, some are on the street, some are at an encounter at an event. I watched a comedian one time. I wrote about that. And so it's a hodgepodge of stuff. And I think the neat thing is for so many people in our world right now, they have been either unchurched or dechurched or turned off to the church, because the church is filled with people like you and I, imperfect people. And I think for a lot of those folks, unchurched and dechurched, this can be a way back to faith, because it's stories from real life. It's stories from nature. For men and gals that are out there that are hunting, they may find a way back to God through some of these stories.
And reviews so far have been good then?
Yes, they've been fantastic. And it's, mostly from people I know. And yet I got a full-page letter from a gentleman, I think he's in Lakes Country, that a friend of his had given him a book, and he wrote me a full-page letter saying how much he enjoyed it. And so at least locally, we're getting great feedback. And from all ages. I take Taekwondo, and I have a young junior high gal that's a part of that. She said, I'm reading your book. I just love it. I read one every day. A lot of people are using it like a daily devotion. They'll read one story a day and get them started, get them thinking about something godly, and so it's kind of neat.
So where do we get it?
Yeah.
You can get it at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. First Lutheran has a great supply, and Melberg's has been terrific. Carl over at Melberg's, our local bookstore, has been terrific.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you.
All right, stick around. We'll wrap things up right after this.